we're taught that work is valuable. And so I find that a lot of entrepreneurs tend to default to doing the work that takes a lot of work.
Right.
Because we grow up and we're taught that you're only valuable if you're working hard, if you're achieving these things.
Right.
When in reality, your superpower lives at that place where you're able to be in flow, and it's actually gonna feel easy.
All right, welcome back once again. This is the Rock Your Gift podcast, where we operate in the intersection between business, personal growth, and creativity. And today I have a powerhouse. His name is Matt Hersh. He is a former corporate strategy consultant, as well as a business coach and a powerhouse who has basically integrated business and energetics. He's a former client who just crushed it, and really happy to have you on the podcast today, my friend.
Thanks, Sean.
So let's start with you. Like, tell us a little bit about who you are, like anything that help us kind of orient. What do you do, and how did you get to this place?
Yeah, I mean, one of the most pivotal moments to getting this place was randomly joining your first, or I don't know if it was your first Rock Your Gift, but I know it was one of the first
Early
iterations.
days, yeah.
And at that time, I was coming out of a bioengineering degree, master's degree, and taking a sabbatical from my corporate strategy consulting job, working with a fitness coaching education company, and also building my own brand on the side. And I've always had a deep knowing that I needed to be an entrepreneur, that I was meant for big impact. And I kind of had this path where I was using my experience from corporate strategy to find my niche in the fitness world, helping a coaching education company, and building my own blog. And at the time, I was just seeking opportunities, networking opportunities, meeting people, and somehow stumbled on the Rock Your Gift event. And it happened to just be like that perfect catalyst as to like what I needed to expand my perspective. And that led me to joining. Totally didn't expect to join. Led me to create my first offer, sell it, and that was literally it. Like, sold my first offer years before I thought I would. Excelled, crushed it, and just loved the coaching aspect, and continued to build my business, my coaching business from there, and deepen my own mastery. And I'm now just really enjoying and loving and evolving my own practice and my business.
Yeah, that's so cool, man. And it's so great to see. And I remember that really clearly because you were in the corporate space and you were moving into this, and to sort of be a part of that beginning, it's really special for me. And I've really been impressed with a lot of how you show up. There's just like a thing about you where it's just like this authentic, and it feels like you're just owning your gifts. And so tell us a little bit about what is like kind of your business. I know that you pivoted, I think slightly pivoted recently, but what were you doing, and what is it that you really do? Like, where's the gift?
Yeah. In coming into this industry, I had heard the advice of like, find your niche, narrow, and just, it never sat well with me. And I knew that if I could continue to refine my understanding of like who I actually was at the core, how I actually add value to the world, and who I work best with, then that's the point of most efficiency, of most impact. And if I can center my business around that point, then that's how I'd unlock the greatest value in the world. And as a byproduct, have the most effective, efficient, and enjoyable business. And that became my operating thesis. And so I started to develop my own frameworks around how to do exactly that, how to understand who you best work with, how you work best, what your natural superpower is, and helping clients to discover that unique gift that makes them powerful, and then how to integrate that, how to actually integrate that into clear words, clear offers, and connect with the market, people who needed that most. And so that was the foundation of the business, and ran a dozen programs from that place around that concept. The main program was called Impact Accelerator. And since then, there's been an evolution, more integrating embodiment, integrating freedom, integrating money consciousness. So some deeper, wider work, but that really remains the core, is understanding that superpower, being able to express that into the world through your business.
Obviously, we have that in common.
Big time.
What is that do when people uncover that superpower? How do you think of that? How do you express that?
One of the things that I see is it's extremely permissive for people to begin to serve in a way that feels natural to them. We're taught that work is valuable. And so I find that a lot of entrepreneurs tend to default to doing the work that takes a lot of work.
Right.
Because we grow up and we're taught that you're only valuable if you're working hard, if you're achieving these things.
Right.
When in reality, your superpower lives at that place where you're able to be in flow, and it's actually going to feel easy.
Yeah.
But to a system that's conditioned to value work, that bumps up against the ego, and so most people don't actually value what they're naturally best at. And when we can start to put words around that unique process that makes you you and makes you valuable, people are like, oh, that is what I do. I can now see it. I can now feel it. I can now express it. I can now do more of it.
Yeah.
I can now expand my scope beyond this, singular small thing that I was calling myself before.
Right.
And it just adds so much ease and so much fun.
Totally. That was what happened for me when I moved into the Rock Your Gift message, because I was modeling all these mentors and all this business coach stuff, and people would see me up on stage rapping and they would be like, that's not the guy that came in yesterday wearing that buttoned up suit. And I realized there was these two versions of me that I was showing up, but every time I was in the rap or the artist, that was where people connected the most. And so I started to give myself more permission to be that in the business. And I started to find that there was a lot more of a resonance. And also for me, there was a lot more feeling like I was on purpose. And the message moved from it being about making money and getting clients, and it moved into like this aspirational connection to what's your purpose, what's your calling. And it like really locked in for me just by opening up that part of me that was already there that I just didn't give myself permission to share. So like, tell us about like where you see your superpower and what's your experience of being in that zone of genius and helping your clients with it.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the cool things that you and Dallas unlocked in me that time. I had such a classical training when it came to business strategy, like working at one of the top firms. Like I knew how business strategy was supposed to run for big $100 million companies, and I was trying to apply that to the solopreneur.
Yeah.
But I was missing the authenticity, unique human aspect of it. And so to see you guys embodying that was like, oh, this is what I was missing. And that was the unlock. That was the unlock I needed. And it led me to, continue to utilize the broader level business strategy that I was naturally good at. And it also, that experience, along with many others, sent me on this mission to go internal as well. And to like truly understand, my energetic makeup, my really who I am and how I operate on a energetic, emotional, fundamental level. And so those two worlds of the external strategy combined with the internal operating system, that's my domain. Helping people who are really good at what they do, but have tended to, are finding that the way that they were operating is now capping them. And that's limiting their impact and their income. And so where I'm really gifted and really talented, and what I enjoy most is to help them to meet themselves on an energetic and identity level and actually expand that nervous system capacity to be able to hold their next level, and then integrate the actual business strategy, the ecosystem architecture that's going to allow them to create that level of income, that level of impact in a really energetically efficient and fun and flowing way. And so that's really where I love to operate.
But that's not what you were doing a few years back, right? You mentioned it was more about like messaging and kind of offer design.
Yeah, it was important, and I still do that. But it was definitely more surface level. Like, let's articulate the mission. Right. Let's package up the offer. Let's create a clear launch plan. And those things are really important. But now let's do those things, but let's first make sure that the entire internal system is coherent and congruent, and there's an identity that actually represents who we're becoming, not who we were. And then let's create the strategy and the tactics from that place.
I love that. I'd love to dive in a little more on that. So what does that look like to help somebody with the energetics piece? Like how does that begin, or what's the process?
What I find and have found is that we humans are meant to, our programming is to survive. And over the course of time, we've absorbed patterns and stories that have allowed us to survive. But when it comes to achieving higher states of being and higher states of living, living with freedom, living with abundance, being in joy and bliss, we have to move beyond those survival patterns. And in the pure business world, that stuff's not even really talked about. Yeah. And then in the pure like energy and spirituality world, that stuff is like talked about, but it's rare that both meet. And so what I found is that if we can, connect with the human and understand what those core limitations are as it relates to business, as it relates to money, what is that internal money story that's actually capping their income? What is the level of visibility consciousness that someone's playing at that's holding back from going bigger? And let's address it from that nervous system consciousness level to actually rewire the system. And then let's start expressing it. Then let's start articulating it. Let's start posting about it. And that's what I found to be like what creates lasting change, as opposed to these busts and booms of what might happen if you join just like, a implementation focused 3-month program, or just do some like Reiki sessions.
Yeah. Wow. So I imagine that is got to have an experiential component to it, right? Because if it's all mental and it's all logical, then we're missing like that part of like you said, like the nervous system, like actually stretching and experiencing a different way to experience that. Whatever it is. So can you tell us a little bit, like, how do you work with people so that they can access those parts of themselves before you get into the strategy piece?
The first place that I want to meet someone is where they're at, is not immediately diving deep or not immediately stepping into strategy. It's like, where are you at as a human? Who are you as a human? What's your goal as a human? And like, what's your level of nervous system operation? What can you handle at the moment? Because good advice that doesn't land is not good advice. And so helping people to actually take stock of where they are and recognize where they are, and embrace like where they are from a perspective of like their emotional state, from perspective of their life, helping people to really, really get truthful and get clear and admit and recognize and embrace where they are. That's the first step that I believe to really any sort of coaching. Because if we're not embracing the truth of who we are and where we are, then we'll be just working in that field of delusion.
Right.
And so that's where it starts. Independent of like one-on-one or program or offer, it's like that's got to be where we start.
Wow. So is that like a series of questions that they're asking themselves that you put forth, and they're answering those things?
Yeah, for me, it tends to just be an intuitive process of like conversation, and I'll pick out the like incongruencies, and we'll go dig a little deeper.
Yes.
And then from there, we'll get to that point of like, what's the biggest limitation in the system at the moment? Is it external? Is it actually like a leads problem, like you say it is, or is it something around you're feeling fear around expression? We'll get to that biggest limitation and move past that block. And once we free up that energy, there's all kinds of new creative energy that we can apply towards the execution, towards strategy.
All right. Are you willing to do that with me right now?
Sure. If you want.
Part of what I like to do on these podcasts
I'd love to.
is to like, get real and get like straightforward. Like there's been things sometimes I've said on this about like things I swore I'd never say like publicly, but I'm like all about, kind of making this experience really like the most authentic that I've ever been a part of. So I'll just share with you that, that's a big thing for me, is really, I feel, I've gotten into a mode of being kind of like work, work, work. Like, I think one of the challenge I have is that my logic thinking takes over, and I tend to think that the value that I have to bring is in the systems and the strategies. And the truth is that's not who I really am. You know, like I am more the creative, the person who's vibes out, you know, in a variety of ways with, you know, music, conversation, transformation, innovation. Like these are the things that like spark for me, and what, you know, the reason why I even call my brand Rock Your Gift. So, but at the same time, you know, I feel that it's hard for me to access that within a coaching setting. I don't know why. So if there's any feedback or way that you could talk me through it, or
Well,
if it comes up.
one thing that I have found to be universal is that the thing we help others with is always the thing that we need help with the most.
Yeah.
And I think it's the source of imposter syndrome.
Right.
And that's something that I just always remind myself of, that, you know, when it comes to supporting someone, you know, expanding their energetic capacity and then creating an epic, aligned business strategy to scale into the next level. Like I can do that with anybody, but then when it comes to my own, I'm like, what the hell do I do?
Yeah.
And, you know, the first thoughts there are like, am I good enough to be doing this? Should I even be a coach? Like, but then I just realized like, nope, like that's why I'm good at it, because I like continue to like ask those questions and seek that for myself. And so that knowing just is always permissive to me, just to come back to that remembrance of like, yeah, I'm always gonna have to continue to remind myself of that this is what I do, and this is my place. And I'll probably never get to that point of like, oh, I'm good and I'm good forever. Like there will always be that fluctuation, and that's what the inner works for.
It's meant to be that way, or at least people who are legit, like personal growth, people who are really committed to growth, that there's that voice that you listen to that questions, you know, yourself, because it keeps you out of narcissism. It keeps you out of like, you know, becoming overly confident and being blinded by, you know, something you're not seeing. But for me, I think that, you know, the energetics piece is something that I want to keep integrating more and more into the experience of business. You know, there's been times where I brought freestyling into my coaching sessions or my group calls. It's always felt a little bit about me. You know, there's been times where I've had this idea. I had it recently, that one of the calls that I want to do with my group is like kind of like a speakeasy vibe. Like people come and they have, let's say, some kind of thing they want to share. Let's say it's like a origin story, or their you know, their messaging, you know, sentence, and having them, you know, get up on the mic and share like an open mic and have this vibe where it's like this kind of music. And it's like, I picture us almost at like a coffee shop, and, you know, the lights are dim, or there's there's obviously happening on Zoom. So it needs to be designed in a way where it can replicate that experience. But like, that's in my mind where I think if I could be in that zone where it's like, it's just Sean, like hanging out and being like in that rapper kind of like spoken word guy identity, but being able to hold space for my clients. And then I'm really representing the true artist, instead of just putting on the business mentor hat and being like, let me solve this. And like, you have a problem and I'm the solution. It's like, it gets boring, you know? So I've been looking for like, how do I open myself up more to creative ways to be in, you know, my business?
Like, you know, I always know too, like what I'm feeling is probably what my clients are feeling too. And it's interesting because like, as you're saying that, I'm like, that's like how I met. That's when I met you.
Right.
That's how you in Dallas showed
right?
up.
Yeah.
You had like a DJ. You had a DJ there, and you
right. We
were
did have
you guys were rapping, and I was like, I was so thrown off, but it was the best pattern interrupt I've ever experienced, because I was like, wait, these guys are business coaches, but they're like rapping. Like, you're allowed to do that, and but the thing is, like, and I know that this has happened to me too. Like, a lot of my past was like what one of my sales coaches told me was like ignorance on fire. Like I was just, especially when I was selling these high ticket packages with no sales training.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, yeah, you're just ignorance on fire selling with like pure motivation and energy. Like I didn't know what I didn't know.
Yeah.
And so I think like as we are in this industry for longer, we have higher level mentors and higher level friends, and we just have a broader perspective, and it almost like that's when knowledge actually, gives us perspective, but it also makes us even more like humble. But sometimes in that humility, like I think we lose a little bit of the initial just like naivete and drive like that we had in the beginning. And so I wonder, like, what do you see in your clients when it comes to like maybe it's mental voices or inner fears when like they come to you and they're like, I've got this cool idea for like this experiential thing, but like I don't know how it's going to be received, or what do you find is the most common like inner voice that holds back that expression that they're just uncertain about?
I think it's similar to this imposter syndrome thing where it's like no one's going to like it or it doesn't make sense, and that's interesting as you asked me that in that way, because I remember having this, I was teaching on this X Factor concept, which is the Genius Zone.
Mm-hmm.
And the woman was a really successful coach who was there, who was part of the audience. And she was also a singer. And we were working with her, me and this other gentleman that I was on stage with, we were working with her on what would it look like to bring that singing into the business in either the way in which she was singing or like the vibe of it, the metaphor of it, like, or even just letting her clients in on that part of her more instead of like it being over in this box. And I could just see her just wrestling with it because she was like me, very like assuming that it just wouldn't be relevant, that it didn't make sense. And it was just like compartmentalizing, right? And so, but I could see from that perspective that she was just blocked. She was just unwilling to take the risk. It was more just falling into like people pleasing in some ways, right? Like I don't want my clients to feel this way. I don't want them to think it's about me, all this stuff that we do. And so my, overarching kind of like advice or feedback for her is like, take a step in that direction, do something that opens that up and at least test it. Otherwise you'll never know. And sometimes when you test, you find out that there was more resonance for the clients than you realized. But so that would probably be my advice to myself on that.
And that's a great, like, even just gave me like an idea there. I think one of my areas of that is Qigong. I've done Qigong like probably 1,200 days in a row plus.
Wow.
Spent 10 grand last year on getting trained in Qigong. And it's a devotional practice I do every single day. I don't miss. But I haven't spoken much about it. I haven't taught much about it. I filmed a lot of my sessions, but I haven't really done anything with it. And I'm like, how does this relate? What do I do with it?
Yeah.
Will I be seen as that weird dude doing these like Tai Chi moves? And
Right.
so I'm like, but I like the idea of just like one step. Okay, cool. Maybe on a coaching call, we do one Qigong move just to open up the energy centers before the call. It's like, that's a no risk. That's a no risk way to just try it, get the feedback. And it's just going to be positive feedback.
Yeah. It's worth a try. I love that. So let's talk about freedom. You brought that up before we jumped on the mic and you said that's what you're moving into. And I love that because so much of what I stand for in this phase is freedom. One of the things that I teach is about creating this rolling group program model that, pulls people out of one-on-one, gets them to kind of grab their clients into a central hub and then also not be on the launch hamster wheel. So that's one way that I help my clients at the moment with creating more space and freedom. But there's obviously a lot more that it means to me. What does it mean to you, and where are you going with the whole freedom direction right now?
Yeah, I had to understand that for myself because I was building a business that I thought I was building towards freedom, and it wasn't. And you mentioned the like launch model. Me and Chet, my business partner, we created an amazing group program. called Impact Accelerator. Discover your superpower, integrate your life's work into one signature program, launch it, and land higher level, higher consciousness clients was the promise. And it worked really, really well. We had it just on rotation. And we were making more money than we like could imagine at the time. But there came a point where I was just like, I will not take another sales call. I can't do it.
Yeah.
And the delivery started to feel draining. It just started to feel draining. And I was like, this is not how I wanted business to feel.
Right.
And so hit a breaking point. I was like, you know what? We're putting a pause on new client acquisition.
Mm-hmm.
Going to serve the current clients, and we're going to lean up the business. And I need to understand what's missing here.
Right.
And so I committed to learning what freedom was. And to me as an engineer, I needed the most fundamental building blocks. And what I distilled was that freedom. The fundamental elements that create freedom are free time, free energy, and free money. And from that place, I was like, okay, I get it. Like those are the three elements. Now, what in my operating system and my business architecture is not allowing for these. And I at the time I'd met a mentor. His name's Ani Manyan. He was the right mentor at the right time. First person in years that actually met me on not just a business level but an energetic level, and really, really helped me to start to deconstruct freedom and realign my the business and my inner ways of operating to be coming from freedom, and eventually distilled my principles of what is needed for freedom. I call it freedom codes. And that is freedom code number 1 is, in order to create freedom, you have to come from freedom. So if you're operating, on the level of like Hawkins, spiral dynamics, or Dodson levels of energy, if you're operating from anger or like constriction, you're not going to create freedom. But if you're operating from peace, joy, bliss, ease, that's the state to create freedom from. So that was my number 1. Number 2 was a huge one for me. And this is where my engineering brain like totally lit up. It was that the flow, to create flow, equals force over friction. Most people, like 99%, in order to create more flow, more money flow, they are like, let's add more force, more volume, more hires, more ads, more sales calls. But you could either double the volume, or you could just cut the friction in half, and you get the same level of flow. And so I was like, okay, cool.
Right.
Let's not add more. Let's reduce the friction in the system and create the most efficient way of operating, and then scale from there. And the final piece, freedom code number 3, was that freedom has to be baked into the system. I always thought that freedom would be like the afterthought, that like if I create enough impact, freedom will happen, and that just wasn't true. And so we had to, as well, we integrated an evergreen, ongoing mastermind. We expanded our product ecosystem. We had to really create a business architecture where freedom was essentially guaranteed, not the thing that happens after. So that was my journey with freedom, and it's still in process, and we're building it out. But I had to like create that model of understanding for myself in order to create it in the world and help my clients with it.
When did you jump back out to launch that piece?
So pretty quickly, we launched the ongoing rolling mastermind, and the past, I'd say 18 months have been about testing and aligning offers that lead into that.
I see.
And it's funny, the full circle moment was when we realized that actually what we need to do is bring back our bread and butter, Impact Accelerator. It's the perfect program to be the lead in for our back end product. We kind of made the mistake of launching the back end, which we call it Freedom.
Yeah.
And it was really difficult to sell into because we were trying to use front end strategies to sell into a thing that's meant to be back end. Right. It's meant to be for the higher level clients who have the base level understanding and want the ongoing mentorship. And so it took us a journey to come back to like our center and like our superpowers and realize like that thing we created and ran 7 times is what we get to bring back in the world, but just from a new energy, a new level of clarity, and a new level of like robustness.
How great. That must have been kind of a relief too, I assume, because it wasn't like building a whole new thing.
Relief and like a big like face palm, like
Obvious. Like, why didn't I think of this?
yeah.
That's amazing. So how do you guys market at this point? What's your methods?
So for the longest time, we were just leveraging organic social media and our networks and who we met in person, and that worked well enough for a while. Then we began to implement paid ads through Meta, which is really what helped the finances take off and help fill up Impact Accelerator. Then we paused that when we paused to relook at freedom.
Yeah.
In the past couple of years, it's really been there's been a few sell from stage pieces in there. It's been a lot of testing, and what we're coming back to now is first stage is going to be connecting with all of our past clients and letting them know what we have to offer at the moment.
Yeah.
And then restarting paid ads. Leveraging again, it's this. I see this theme of like leveraging the principles of what used to work really well for us, but just from a new energy in a new ecosystem. So that's where we're at the moment.
That's great. That's great. So, tell us a little bit more about what you do outside of business, because I know you're like you have like a health routine or something. You do a lot of things. Like what is personal growth for you like?
Yeah. Physical health has been one for me that just, from age 11, I was in the gym and really just had this belief that like if my body was working well, everything else is going to work even better.
Yeah.
And so I have a really dedicated health and wellness practice. Spend like probably 60 to 120 minutes every morning in meditation, in Qigong, and in movement, just like priming and aligning for the day. And have a dedicated training practice in the gym. Love surfing. And the next, my next hobby that I am going to invest in is spearfishing.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's those are the daily and weekly installments that keep me connected to myself, connected to nature, and as well having a thriving social life is really important.
Yeah.
That's one for me that just if I'm not intentional about it tends to get left behind because I am so good being with myself,
Right.
And get a lot of value of being alone.
Yeah.
But yeah, now that I'm back in San Diego, like I'm excited to just really have a thriving tribe and, be out there and having a lot of fun with a lot of people.
How do you organize your week or your schedule? Do you have a structure around that so that you have the space for the personal growth stuff and the social stuff?
So I have made a concerted effort to keep my schedule as open as possible and minimize any commitments that aren't needle movers. And with the way that we've been running the business, we've been able to focus on current clients, on creative endeavors, and on ourselves. And so I intentionally built it to really have a lot of white space in the day so that I don't have to be as regimented. I used to be a machine with my schedule, my daily schedule of how regimented it was to make sure I get all the things in.
Yeah.
But now I do have the white space to like have my day and follow and I have it's like equal parts discipline and devotion. Like have my morning and evening routines that I'll never stray away from. They'll differ in how they look and how long they take. I got my time in the gym, got my time in nature. Like these are the non-negotiables. And then in between that, it's going to be like what are the highest level priority needle movers that are going to unlock business growth now and into the future, are going to unlock personal growth now and into the future.
That's dope. So how did you make that transition? Because I know for me, one of the things that I want a lot more white space, and I have a lot of this feeling like I should do this, like for instance, like joint venture calls. That's a big part of like my business model, but I really don't want to keep packing my schedule with like, you know, like it's one thing to have client calls, and I think that I've gotten pretty good at, mostly it's these 1 to 2 times a week group calls, and then I have a few one-on-ones. So it's really not that bad, but it just seems like I find a way to like fill up these other days. Like, how do you kind of hold yourself back from doing that and keep that white space and feel, because I think part of it is a feeling of like, I'm not being productive if I didn't, you know, like how do you, like, I'm just enjoying my day. Like I don't deserve to enjoy my day kind of thing.
Totally.
So
Yeah.
How do you do that?
No, that's it. And that's it. I had to unravel. I found when I was in the exploration of freedom, why it's not working, and how to achieve it. I had found probably the most limiting pattern within me, which was your worth is wrapped up in how much you work.
Yeah.
If I'm not working, I'm not worth. And that was it. Like, and I then like that was in that moment I was like, oh my God, like I see this myself. I see this in my clients. And if your worth is attached to how much you're working, then you're either going to fill your schedule to feel like you're worthy. And then if you're not, then you're going to feel like you're unworthy. And so I had to really unravel that belief in myself.
Wow.
And to disconnect my worth from how much I worked or how much money I'm making. And so that created a clean operating system, which where the like base level programming was not at odds with the goal. Mm-hmm. So that was the biggest piece for me.
That's dope. I love that. Yeah, I love hearing all about that, you know, because of your, I don't know, I guess who you are, your engineer brain / the personal growth stuff. You like, I love hearing how you identify a problem and then you basically break it down to like why, and then you basically solve it. And that's so cool to see. I think a lot of people, you know, stay stuck in problems. So it's really cool to see, you know, okay, this isn't working. What's the reason? Get to the heart of it, resolve it, and move on to the next, you know, version 3.0 or whatever it may be.
Yeah, I appreciate that perspective.
Yeah, that's dope, man. So we have a few more minutes. Anything else that you feel like you want to share with the viewers, listeners that we haven't covered that's really important to you?
Fun is really important.
Yeah.
Like the degree that I look back in my life, and the degree that I'm having fun is often correlated with the degree of success that I'm having.
Right.
And I know there's times where I get stuck believing I need the success before the fun. And that just prolongs the whatever stagnant pattern I'm in.
Yeah.
And I think that from a business perspective, it should be building your business, and the business you build should feel natural. It should feel energizing, should feel fun. And if it's not, something's out of alignment, and it's worth it to slow down and look at how you like better understand yourself and how you can architect the business for more flow and more fun. And then on the outside of that, how can you injecting fun in your life is going to be a catalyst to the business too. And so that's one of those things that I'm kind of speaking to myself here, that I think is just ultra important, that, you know, we can get wrapped up in the, the deep, sometimes dark personal growth work, the shadow work. We can then get our heads wrapped up in the strategy, the creation, the doing. Yeah. But how can we make it more fun? How can we allow that natural aliveness within us that wants to flow? How can we get out of our own way to allow that to flow? And how can we create these other pieces of our life, and whether it is social, whether it is a hobby, to just allow you to have more aliveness in life, because that's your clients will feel that, you'll feel that, and it'll grow your business as well. It's never logical, but I've seen that to be true 100% of the time with me.
Logical, exactly. Yeah, exactly. That's dope. So if you guys are enjoying this, make sure that you subscribe, make sure that you like it, make sure that you comment if you're getting value. Let us know what popped for you. And share this with your friends, like let people know about it. Share the link with them and get the word out, because we're bringing on amazing experts like Matt and many others who are changing lives, through this message. So hopefully you felt that, and I want to make sure we get the word out further. So with that being said, love to know, how can people find you, or do you have anything that you're doing that you want to share about?
Yeah, Instagram is my main hub of content, of special offerings,
Mm-hmm.
of where I put my energy and express my truth and my value into the world. So at Matt James Hersh, Hersh, and yeah, I just want to throw special thanks your way as well, because that synchronicity of jumping into that Rock Your Gift Day back in 2017 was a giant catalyst to
Yeah.
my work and my life. So thank
Love
you.
that.
This is really cool, just like full circle moment.
Yeah, it's great for me too. And it's obviously a pleasure when you get to see clients of yours, not just win in the program, but go on to really find their path, and to step into that, unique identity of expertise that you've demonstrated through the years. So it's always been, I've seen you from afar through Facebook, and I'm like, wait a sec, aren't we in the same town? So no, you weren't here for a bit, but great to reconnect now that you are. And so yeah, absolute pleasure, man.
Thank you.
Yeah, cool. All right, guys, we'll see you on the next Rock Your Gift podcast. Until then, have a great day. Peace.